Well, thank you for having me, and I look forward to hearing your questions and comments after we're done. A little bit about my background. So I've been in the continuous improvement business for quite a while, 37 years. I started my career with General Electric, then worked for a company called Ingersoll Rand, and then I've been out on my own as a consultant for about 17 years now. Uh, Probably 80% of my clients are manufacturing, 20% of my clients are non-manufacturing, especially in the last few years. So it just goes to show that lean is very much spreading across all industries. There's a magazine called Industry Week. I've been a contributing editor for that magazine for about 10 years now. There's a website there at the bottom of this page if you want to go to that to read the articles that I've written. About 35 articles on lean, different aspects of lean. Industry Week also has a best plants competition, and I've been a judge for that for the last 9 years, which gives me a lot of insight to what different manufacturing plants are doing in the area of lean, plus a tremendous amount of data, those that are doing it well and those that are not doing it so well. So that's a little bit about my background. So to start our conversation, I wanted to share with you something that happened early in my career. Like I said, fresh out of university, I started with General Electric. I was on their management training program for 2 years. And then they asked me to go to Louisville, Kentucky, where we made refrigerators. So this particular situation, I was very interested in automation and robotics coming out of school. And this particular plant had invested a tremendous amount of capital in trying to automate many of the steps in creating a refrigerator. And I was asked to come in and help get one of these production lines up and running. Well, we did that and we got it up and running, but we had quite a few problems along the way. The automation was not very reliable. Some of the quality issues that we thought would be taken care of by the automation did not get addressed. And after a couple of years, people would look at this massive automation project and conclude that for all practical purposes, it was a failure at all levels. Well, you don't have that kind of a failure under Jack Welch's time when he was CEO without getting his attention. So he ended up sending a group of corporate folks to our plant to try to understand what went wrong with this massive automation project. And they asked me to join this group for 3 months. And we did a deep dive into all of the data, all of the things that we could discover. And after doing that extensive research and generating a report that was quite thick, we really boiled the whole thing down to 3 key learnings. And when Andrew asked me to join this call to talk about Industry 4.0 and new technology, I think these same 3 key learnings would apply today as much as it did back in the mid 1980s. These were the 3 conclusions that we came to. First, when you automate a bad process or system, it results in an automated bad process or system. That may sound redundant, but instead of taking the time to really look at how we did things and improve the process and then automate it, we took very poorly designed processes and just applied automation to them. One of the kind of running jokes we had at the time was that, before the automation project, we were making junk. Afterwards, we could just make junk faster, but it was still junk. So that was one key learning. Before you apply, Industry 4.0 tools and techniques, first get down to the fundamental basics and improve your process and systems, and then use those tools to help supplement a good process. The second thing we concluded was, after we put in all of these systems, we had fires that were popping up all over the place on a regular basis. We had over 100 engineers in this plant, and we did a survey of how those engineers spent their time. And it came back that 97% of their time was being spent putting out fires, addressing problems that were popping up all the time throughout the day. 2.5% of their time was being spent on administrative work, and only 0.5% of their time was focused on trying to permanently fix problems. So we actually called this the firefighting death spiral, because as you're putting out fires, you're putting on Band-Aids and putting, quick fixes in place. Well, those things start to break over time, but then more fires come, and before you know it, you're just overwhelmed with problems that are occurring throughout the day. The third conclusion was that we had done a very poor job of getting the workers engaged and involved in all of these changes. So, of course, they resisted these changes significantly. And that resulted in a lack of ownership by our workers, a lack of buy-in, and also a lack of pride of workmanship. For when we did have some successes, they couldn't celebrate in those successes because they had not been engaged. So what did these three conclusions result in? Well, after we presented these findings, I was asked to pull 10 of the best engineers together, find 10 specific areas that needed to be improved in order to try to break out of this firefighting death spiral. Each of those engineers was tasked with pulling together a group of employees, a group of workers, to then do what we today would call Kaizen events. Now, this was back before that kind of language was known, but basically focus on doing improvement events on those 10 areas. And now at that time, you got to understand, lean was not part of the vocabulary. Six Sigma was not part of the vocabulary. Dr. Deming was just coming on the scene at that time, or just being recognized in the US as someone to really pay close attention to. So we had enough successes where I was then asked to go into kind of one of those dream jobs where for a couple of years I got to go around collecting best practices, including spending time with Dr. Deming, spending time with people like Brian Joyner, Stephen Covey. I got to go through the original Six Sigma training at Motorola University before belts were handed out. And I got the opportunity to really apply what I had learned in the rest of my time at General Electric. So, in conclusion, follow the Plan, Do, Check, Act. Get your employees engaged, get them involved, permanently fix problems to avoid the firefighting death spiral.